still going live. There we go.
All right. Yeah. I know Adrian Wren was going to join.
Yeah,
All
he's there. I'm trying to get everyone in.
right.
All right. Everyone see the shared screen?
Yes.
Well,
Yep.
let's kick this off. I'm Thomas Hall, Executive Director of Clean Start, and we have kind of a short notice Clean Start perspectives today. Um, I hope all of you have been paying attention and actively involved in, our community, our state, and our nation, and are very aware of the election that just happened. And some of the statements by now the president-elect are, I would say, hostile towards the energy transition amongst many other groups. So today we're going to kind of talk about, that one thing that, has always kind of stuck with me when I first kind of got into entrepreneurship was um, when there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of opportunities for solutions. Now, even if these problems seem like someone's kind of out to face you or against you on it, there still is opportunities for solutions. Now, first, I want to first highlight our sponsors. We're supported by SMUD, Bloom, Fresno State, the Wet Center there, River City Bank, and Chico Start. And today, of course, the guests are Clean Start's own Gary Simon and myself. Um, and we're going to talk about how to cope during these perilous times, during these times where you're probably going to see some contraction in investment and more. But one thing that remains true is the economics, the business, the customer, creating something people want, customers want, is still viable. People are still going to go out there trying to find solutions. And if you can make something that's better, people are going to want that. So customer discovery is still really important. And with that, Gary has his first thing that he wants to tell you, which is
Get a grip. Um, and it might just be a grip on the arms of your chair so you don't fall out of it. But you know, there's two poles you could be going to. Oh, it can't possibly be as bad as everybody says. That's probably wrong. And I'll just wait and see, what happens. And at this point, do nothing, or, you know, you're panicking. And you don't throw the passengers and the luggage overboard quite yet. Um, so let's just go through where we are. And as Thomas said, some things have changed, but some have not. People still like clean, green, lower cost products. Renewables and efficiency, I should have said, are still some of the lowest cost resources that people have, and they'll still be interested in them. Companies have their own goals for becoming greener to um, satisfy the requests they get from their shareholders and from their customers. So they will still be out there, which means there may be some partners that can help you through these times. So let's focus on what we can expect. Next slide. Okay, we can expect a slowdown in all parts of the transition funding, but not a complete halt. Why not a complete halt? Well, there's going to be big changes in leadership and staffing, but it takes time to make big changes. And dismantling entire agencies, as he has threatened to do. Fortunately, the one that seems to be in his crosshairs is education and not energy. It's going
that's a
to
big
involve,
asterisk on the fortunately, though.
pardon?
Big asterisk on the fortunately, though.
Yeah, well, right. Um, yeah, we don't want to see that department dissolve either, but um, there are many in Congress that like what these agencies are doing on the Republican side. So they're not always going to be lining up behind the president in terms of doing great devastation. And just a reality, things that are already in the pipeline are hard to stop. Um, and things like the tax credits are still popular. And They may be safe for a while. God only knows how long all this is going to go on. What will happen, based on my experience, is he is going to get a lot of stuff started, and then he's going to get stymied. Um, and you have to be sort of sensitive to seeing those opportunities as they come up. Now, if there's a huge exodus of people out of agencies, um, that's entirely different. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's a lot of loyal people there that want to help, at least for a while. So let's go on. You're probably not going to be able to do much about going to investors instead of trying to get grants and contracts. Investors are going to try to be reducing risk, um, and they're harder to convince to do something. You can get investment. I mean, the investment door is always open, but it's a higher level of proof to an investor that you've got customers, you've got huge demand, and that you've got all your ducks in a row. So it's tough. I wouldn't say my first move would be go out and try to raise several $1 million in the investment market. They're going to be holding off for a few months. There was already among investors a declining interest in Cleantech, as they were getting attracted by the next shiny object, artificial intelligence. So one of the reasons I have declining interest in Cleantech is it's been a harder road trying to get to profitability than investors expected. Probably not longer road than many of us who've been in the game expected, but investors, many of them, are impatient. So they're going to want to see more traction and more proof of sales before they'd be interested in investing in you. Let me give you an example. I was just talking with a company who wants to recover gold and copper from electronic waste. They're probably going to get some investor interest. First of all, the product that they sell, gold, is at an all-time high. Secondly, there's an unbelievable amount of electronic waste that isn't being recycled. So they probably have a viable investment strategy that they could execute on, but they're still going to need customers. They're going to have to get the rest of their plans together. If it's not investors, where are the other bright spots? Well, we haven't talked much about this, because to date, getting grants from government agencies has been probably the number one path. Now we have to think about other things. There's a few bright spots, like philanthropic foundations, that specifically are looking at green opportunities. There's, in fact, one foundation called Overlooked Climate Opportunities. So we're going to have to start putting together a package for you of what all of these are. And of course, everybody's going to rush to them. But they know and have already said that they may bear some responsibility here to keep people alive through this perilous time. So put foundations on your radar screen as to where you could find money.
Yeah.
Next slide. Go
Well,
ahead,
there's,
Tom.
yeah, I was gonna say Cisco, SK. Um, there are countless ones out there, and you can find them usually on like large corporations websites that have foundations that have climate goals, that have investment, and even look at private groups to support in it. And kind of in all this, there's a lot of chaos, and one of the things in politics that here is politics makes strange bedfellows. There's probably going to be a lot of unintended consequences from some of the actions that happen. So find, potential new people that you can go and work with, new people that you can connect with, um, and ways to get out there and get, your solution in front of, potentially new markets. Um, during the last administration, there was tariffs that um, massively impacted farmers. So is there an opportunity where tariffs happen again for you to work with the impacted groups and get your technology out there to help them? Um, So look for some opportunity in this and look for new people that you might not have worked with in the past that you can work with going forward. And don't be complacent, Gary.
Yeah, there's some short fuses. Um, First of all, you may recall from the news that they only passed a short-term funding bill for the current fiscal year. It ends in the middle of December. So the existing Congress and the existing president are going to be confronted with an issue of, do we pass another short-term measure? And so this is not the new Senate, which is under Republican control. This is the Democratic Senate. And interestingly, um, while the new House remains in Republican control, it's so far a thinner margin. And the president, God bless him, is pulling Republican House members into cabinet positions. So Matt Gaetz has already resigned his seat in Florida. That means either the margin is thinner for Republicans, or it might actually switch to Democratic control between now and when we have to deal with another short-term budget measure. So keep an eye on that. But Trump and his allies have in the past said they have no problem shutting the government down and creating chaos. If it goes that way, there's going to be a lot of difficulties for some of the other things I'm talking about here. Secondly, Trump is threatening to claw back allocated money that is not obligated. So there's a lot of money that's been out there, funding announcements. You may be in the process of applying for some of these grants and haven't got yet. Well, they're under threat. Now, how will that threat be exercised? Well, you're going to need a new secretary, and he's going to have to go in and issue orders about just halting everything. And so far, the characteristic is he is appointing cabinet secretaries who are greatly inexperienced. So they may not even know how to stop some of the stuff that's underway. So that means there is a premium for quick action. So, don't wait for things to happen to you. Dig in, take action now, and refocus your efforts. For example, just to tell you what's coming up, the president has indicated he wants the Senate to go into recess immediately after January 20th. Why? Well, then you can appoint cabinet secretaries without going through the Senate confirmation process. It's what's called a recess appointment, and that will last for a year or could last for a year. Will the Senate go along with that? I don't know. It depends on how many just, total acolytes he has. But I will tell you this, the new Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, I know, I have talked with John Thune before. He's definitely a conservative Republican, but he's no fool. So he's more in the mold of a Mitch McConnell who understands the institution and respects the institution and won't necessarily lead his troops off the cliff and do this recess appointment thing. And I know he will have personal concerns about some of the picks for the agencies, particularly RFK Jr. for the Department of Health and Human Services. So I don't know. I can't tell you. My best guess is how this is going to come out, but I can tell you that Thune is a reasonable guy. I agree with a lot of the stuff he has said in the past, but he knows what he's doing. Next slide. We got a big advantage here being in California, and you need to look at other states that might be similarly progressive, like Colorado, Washington, Oregon, to build your business in those where there is a state government that is supportive of what you want to do. Within California, there are sources of money through the ARB, through local air pollution control districts like Sacramento Metropolitan AQMD, San Joaquin County or San Joaquin Valley, APCD. They're all over the place, and they have access to money. Yes, it mostly deals with pollution control, but in the case of ARB, they are running a broad program of investing the cap and trade money in some pretty unusual projects. So that refocuses the importance of mastering what's on the list of approvable topics for projects at the ARB. They have a funding wizard. There are assets to which we have access and can help you get access to them to get an explanation of where to look. But you would be surprised at the breadth of things the ARB is willing to focus on.
And it's a good time to look at that because if you remember, we had a meetup last week where we talked about LCF credits and they talked about, the prices of them actually have gone down. But they also mentioned that the ARB had a meeting last Friday where they increased, the regulation and increased the things that cap and trade applied to, which will drive up the opportunity for going after and generating LCF credits that'll be valuable.
So the combination of the amount of money that they're trying to dole out between cap and trade and the LCFS tax credits, the low carbon fuel standard credits, is $7 billion a year. So it's not a goose egg. It's not small, it's big. But you have to fit one of the funding categories that they have approved. And some of them will be tough to figure out. So you have to look at it hard, and you probably have to interact with the staff of these agencies and get something that works for you. But there is that money available. The other is the Energy Commission, which has already said, they will step up and in this time try to help people which are being damaged by what's going on in Washington, D.C. And you certainly have heard the governor say that he wants to Trump-proof what we're doing in California. So don't know the dimensions of that and don't know what actually can be done. Start looking. And Colorado has been very progressive. Washington, Oregon, less so in Arizona. But there are other things going on other places. And by the way, Washington, Oregon also have LCFS programs and cap and trade programs. So they've got big buckets of money that you can look at up there. But you probably need to think a lot about finding partners and finding allies to put something together. The thing that ARB likes to see for the cap and trade money are pretty big projects. So probably bigger than you're thinking about. So you're going to have to identify entities that could be partners. They may be people in the construction business, and you're just trying to get them to use a product you currently have. But you can go to the ARB, who, by the way, has a statutory mandate to spend 25% of its money to reduce carbon emissions on low-income housing. So you have an opportunity there if you can figure out something that deals with low-income housing, senior centers, et cetera, and get an ally in the construction business. So, Mark, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I do. Let's go back a bit. Well, I'm
Hold
doing.
up. You have a beard now?
Yeah, I have a beard now.
Is that okay? No Shave November. I hit you hard. Wow. That's
No, I started that before then.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so things related to automobiles, to pollution, we're actually combining what you were just talking about. So we're doing there's community solar, round three, and there's the solar. These are prize, American Solar Prize and an American Community Solar Prize, which is round 8. So we're working with I'm working with the guy who has the trucking services concession at the Port of Oakland, and I just found out that Port of Oakland just got $460 million for converting trucks, or for replacing trucks, trucks and other equipment at the port with electric, going electric. But they don't have, they didn't mention anything about how they're going to charge them. So there are ways that you can weave things together, and the West Oakland community has its own community action plan for air pollution from the port.
Hmm.
And so I'm talking to the head of the West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project. Met with him again a few days ago. So so that way you weave together solving carbon, solving toxic emissions, even solving trucks parked on the streets of West Oakland, and and the community and the disadvantaged, underserved community. It all weaves together if you have an opportunity to do that.
And I
No,
think that's a good kind of point, because one thing you can take away from that is the world didn't stop on November the 5th. We didn't stop, fighting the energy transition on the November the 5th. We didn't throw our hands up and say, oh, well, the Port of Oakland, that's not going to happen now. There's still people working on it. There's still opportunity to go in there and do work and provide solutions, as Mark has highlighted that he's working on here, with groups that have money that, might be from the federal government and is already allocated. Um, the world didn't stop. So we go on and we try to find people to work with to build these projects. So, Gary?
Yeah, so Adrian Wren of Valley Vision just noted there's a similar project going on in South Sacramento. I think it's the one dealing with the transportation hub and a number of things that are happening in that sort of category. And the Energy Commission is going to be looking at impacted communities more and more. So be aware of how you can take your products into some project which deal with these impacted communities. Others, I mean, anywhere you find a refinery, there are communities nearby that are impacted by their operations. What can you do for them?
And those communities also include hard to reach communities that you might find partners with in Chico Start, who's a partner of ours here. So,
Right.
you can go Sacramento, Central Valley. Um, I mean, at Clean Start, we've all gone all the way up to connect with people in Modoc with the help of Chico Start. So, build the network and look at communities.
Yeah. So, look at the rural communities, look at the tribal communities. They each have some preferential sources of funding for what you want to do. So, it's there's not going to be as many opportunities before, but it's not zero. So you just need to focus on the things that are more likely to work out for you. Okay, let's move on here. Very important. If you have a federal grant or a project you're doing right now at the federal level, there's a window of opportunity to get some things done up to January 20th. Footnote, but not if the government gets shut down on December 15th. And then there's going to be a confusion interlude after the 20th, that it's not clear who's in charge. It's not clear what instructions are going out. You're going to find sympathetic audiences in the agencies that perhaps you could just ask a general question. Are you considering expediting anything that I should know about? What do I need to do to expedite the consideration of my application? And if you have active contracts, expedite your billings to those contracts. If you happen to be a recipient of an SBIR, understand that within the rules of the SBIR, there is a quick pay program for which you can submit a claim for money that doesn't immediately have to be completely tied to expenditures in arrear. They will give you money in advance. It's a little dangerous because you have to document later that you spent all the money in the categories you should have. But there is a quick pay program. Usually they pay within 48 hours. So if you have an SBIR, explore that opportunity to just get yourself on the right side of a lot of stuff that's about to happen and give you a little bit more flexibility. So there is opportunity to take action on things that you know are endangered, but they're not gone now. So do something to reach out and find out what the opportunities might be. Let's go to some other ideas. The key word, bootstrap. Find a way to bootstrap your way through the next 4 years. That means sales. That means doing things that people will pay you for. You know, if you're trying to launch a company in a product area, you've learned a lot about that area. Can you do any consulting for customers? Can you keep some money flowing with that? Are there any things that you've seen that are products that are more at hand immediately that you could begin selling, or you could do that get some money flowing? What can you do on the internet? This is a good time to build your recognition on the internet, talk about things that are going on, and then try to find out exactly what customers need. You can also, if you're dealing with current customers and you're about to land a contract, ask for a larger deposit than you have been in the past. I think they'll understand why. You can't ask for 100% deposit, although I've done that in the past. But if you're typically asking for a 10% deposit, ask for a 25% deposit. Cash flow is going to be crucial to you because other things that you might have been counting on might be disrupted.
Cabinet business is a 50% deposit, and there's probably other businesses as well, categories that where 50% deposit is either traditional or accepted.
Yeah, it gets tougher the larger the number gets, but you know, I think people will understand. So don't be shy. Now, we have been dealing with companies that are very early stage, and they've been entering pitch competitions. We have one of our graduates of our crash course that now has entered 10 competitions and gotten money from 7. And it's added up to a significant amount of money. There are richer pitch competitions than the ones we have locally. If you want to enter the Rice University energy business plan competition, we should talk about that. If you want to try to win a prize in the Cleantech Open, we can talk to you about that. So there are interestingly some other opportunities out there that give you money that you don't have to pay back. Prize money is not an equity share. It's not a loan. It's just money you keep. You'll be quite aware of those. SBIRs themselves are popular with Congress and with Republicans because it's small business. They probably won't be shut down. SBIRs cover a wide range of things you could apply for. If you haven't mastered this huge list of agencies that are offering SBIRs, do so. SBIR.org gives you an entry point to finding out what's going on. And they're unusual. You know, you might think, I'll go to the Department of Energy, yeah, but you might find out that the Department of Housing and Urban Development has SBIRs that more fit what you're trying to do.
And
So
specifically look also SBIR phase 0.
Yeah, that's a way to get help
for your phase one.
to land some money.
Yeah. There's also
So
advocacy chiefs in Sacramento. You can find them. They've helped companies with SBIR. And if you want to talk with us, we have some videos of companies that have applied and used SBIR successfully to grow, including our last perspectives with Joseph Gallegos, who has a great introduction of what you need to go do and how you can leverage it to grow your business.
is that one up on YouTube?
It is. I will put it in the chat.
Okay. And then customers have not entirely lost their interest in achieving environmental, social, and governance goals, the ESG stuff you often hear about. And they have made commitments to make their products and processes greener. So they are interested in those products. They're still interested in carbon offsets. So, research more on what customers have this as a corporate goal and what can you propose to them that might lead to a project or even a consulting assignment. All right, next page. And you look to Europe and Asia. They're not going to be, as retrograde as the US is for a while, Europe in particular. And there's still a lot of grant money. You're going to have to adapt a bit. You may have to find a European or an Asian partner to help you out. But those markets are open and their interest in clean tech is still high. They're not pulling back. And, partner with US companies that already have overseas sales, and partner is a word that you should focus on. What other companies in your business area might you be able to help win a grant by adding your expertise to theirs? Or is there a company that you can partner with either through their corporate venture arm or just talking to them about what it is they're trying to achieve on greening up their products and processes? So partner, 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 look overseas, and let's see what the next slide is.
Well, that actually wraps it up.
Okay.
But I want to kind of have a continued, I guess, call to action of get out there and connect with more people during this. Because there's, if you think of it as, the energy transition is a bit of a resistance movement against the incumbent fossil fuels and gas. And there's a lot more people that are, part of the resistance movement of things that maybe being forced to change over the next 4 years. So look for people that you can work with, connect with, and grow your business with. Part of successful bootstrapping is successful customer discovery, figuring out what people want and what they're willing to pay for, and not building something that they don't. So a lot of the tools that we've talked about at Clean Start, the business model canvas, the value proposition, and getting out of the building and talking to people are even more important now. So don't let, oh, there's not going to be $1 trillion in grants stop you or hold you back from things. Rick.
Yes, but it's creativity, but final word. Thomas and I are here
Rick's
to
got
help
his
you.
hand up.
Okay, Rick.
Got to unmute.
Yeah, still on mute, Rick. There we go.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question is, how secure is the Inflation Reduction Act funds? Is that something that can be reversed with this new administration? And if so, how soon?
Well, it's a popular program even among Republicans because it advantages a lot of businesses. So my guess is that it won't get slammed, as the first thing on the list. I think, this is a dynamic that's going to be going on, Rick, as the president discovers that he just doesn't have a blank check. But it's going to take a while for the Republicans that have just gotten reelected to grow a spine. And the minute that they see that projects that were advantaged by the Inflation Reduction Act tax credits are jeopardized, they're going to be saying, hold on a minute, this meant a lot of jobs and a lot of money to my district. I'm not so sure it's a good idea to just eliminate the whole thing.
Yeah, and yeah, because the way you'd hear the president-elect talk about the Inflation Reduction Act is you'd think it was all for offshore windmills. And the truth is that it's an incredibly diverse program along with the um, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, that it hits so many different areas, and that they might look at the portions of it that are left and be like, well, that's not something that we want to cut. That's something that, goes to a district that we really, really like, or a program that, we're big fans of. Um, Everyone, thinking that it's all just the one thing, it's not going to turn out that way. So, like Gary said, a lot of the Republicans, if there's been hundreds of millions invested in their district, they're not going to want that clawed back.
Right.
And then that goes for some of the projects under the infrastructure law.
Yeah.
They're
Sorry.
seeing hundreds of millions of dollars come in to build bridges, highways in their district. That, regardless of the fact they voted against the law, they're not going to vote against those kinds of advantages for their district.
All right, Eugene.
Yeah, just wanted to chime in on that topic. The CEC launched the Equitable Building Decarb program this week at their business meeting. Major celebration. So, there's federal money that's going out, and I put in the links of 3 important presentations that actually sets forth all these org charts of deployment, organizations, names, and it's a huge org charts for the Northern California, Central Valley, and LA County regions, or actually Southern California. So by name, those companies are identified as contractors and subcontractors to implement this program. I would look at those companies and reach out to those to help them deploy this money that's going out. And that's something to really celebrate in this. The governor's office also had sent out a press release this week about energy rebates, consumer rebates. And so I put that on a LinkedIn post, but major press release went out. That's good news.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And I think you dropped in the chat the reference to the Energy Commission action on the equitable building decarb. So people should take a
that's
look.
right. Exactly. And they've been waiting and designing that program for a while, and they actually launched it. And so this is good news. And to the leadership of Commissioner McAllister, who's passionate about building decarb, right? And so there are some good moments out there, things that are still moving, as you correctly said, Gary. California is not stopping, right? Maybe we're slowing, but I remember working during the first Trump administration at CC, and that was an era where I saw my peers at the DOE somewhat muted, but they didn't really stop. But what they could actually officially say were, it was, a little quiet, but, we still collaborated, right? We still collaborated.
Well, that also reinforces the point, Gene, about, reach out to people you have contacts with in the agencies and just see
Hmm.
what their temperature is on expediting things or other programs that are coming up. They probably won't be as vocal about them, but they still go on. And you have to be a little bit more creative to find out the details so that you can get in line and try for them.
And they've been
Right.
spending
And
their entire life working
Yeah.
on this and trying to deliver for the benefit
right.
of America.
And what people
They're not
don't
going to give up.
realize, yeah, what people don't realize about the IRA, there's a lot of money dedicated to grid resilience. No one wants a PSPS event, and they're going to occur. And grid resilience, there are corporate and business interests that have a stake in a resilient grid.
Yeah.
So,
As we wrap this up, one thing I also do want to kind of remind people of is that during the first term, they tried to revoke California's EPA exemption, which is the exemption that allows us to put on in California a lot of the innovative regulations and that result in investment in clean energy here in our state. And one of the things was the ZEV mandates and ZEV agreements that we had. And one of the things that it kind of inspired me is you saw a lot of OEMs, the manufacturers, come together and say, regardless of revoking the EPA mandate, we're going to join in a coalition to support what California agreed upon. So you might think that, oh, OEMs don't want to go for these goals or, industry doesn't want to change on it. But there's a lot of people that have worked with regulators and people in government that agree with the direction that things are going and don't want to see it stop because they see climate change as an existential threat and they also see it as a good business opportunity too.
yeah.
So, Gary, do you have any final words?
Well, on that point, I mean, and Adrian reinforced it too. There is going to be a fight on the EPA waiver. And the new person that takes over there, I'm sure, has that at the top of their list of things to do because Trump has demonstrated himself to be interested in retribution. So California is a thorn in his side. So he'll point some barbs our direction. So don't be surprised at any of that, but it doesn't mean he's going to succeed. Um, there are a lot of interests beyond just the political ones that support these programs. But final thought, we're here. We can do other coaching with you. Get on our calendars. So it's Gary at cleanstart.org and Thomas at cleanstart.org. You want to talk more about this stuff or knock around some ideas? We're here to help. This is
Join the-
like, go ahead.
Come join the resistance.
Yeah. So I think we'll wrap it up here. This meeting has been recorded. It will be available on YouTube if you want to note other people that didn't get to participate this morning can watch it there, gain some of the insights that we've
Yeah.
tried to knock around here.
And, as we wrap this up, um, Cleantech is, not the only one under attack here. So as we go and have our resistance, make sure that we take others with us and bring others along because, we can go fast alone, but we can go further together. So with that, I'd like to thank our supporters, SMUD, Bloom, Chico Start, Fresno State, and River City Bank. Highlight that we have upcoming events, our holiday meetup, November 21st, or December 11th, and Mastering Climate Risk with the Climatographers on November 21st. I want to say thank you for attending. You can connect with us and check out this across other things. And I guess the final words I want to leave